My name is Benton Stokes. I'm a former fundamentalist, post-evangelical worship leader, and songwriter. I enjoy wry Manhattans, roller coasters, and road trips, just not all at the same time.
I'm Elane O'Rourke, and I'm a teacher, an author, and a spiritual coach. I was a philosophy professor and a liberal pastor in a couple of former lives, and these days I love aha moments and not-so-dry martinis.
We have conversations about life and God with a queer perspective, over cocktails, like you. This is Cocktail Theology. So what are we drinking?
Well, before I tell you what we're drinking,
Okay.
I just want to let you know that I didn't name it the obscure thing I was going to name it. Because as you know, I have a tendency to name things with just really obscure names, like Jairus' daughter.
Yeah.
So in this case, I was going to name it after the line in Macbeth, where the three witches have gathered around their cauldron and they're throwing in Eye of Newt and all of that stuff. And Hecate, anyway, and they say, by the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes, and in comes Macbeth. Mm-hmm. Well, see, this is where it gets obscure, though. The reason that one came to me, besides the fact that this is Halloween week, as we're recording this, is that this is a prickly pear margarita.
Nice, okay.
And so it's made out of fresh prickly pears that I turned into a syrup. And for those of you who don't know what a prickly pear is, it's a cactus fruit. By native folks, they're called tunas, which always makes me laugh. But anyway, it's a prickly pear syrup, and then the rest is normal margarita makings. So
nice. All right. Let's try it.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, wow. That is really good.
I like that.
Prickly pear is not a flavor that I'm not familiar with. It doesn't have the tartness of like a berry.
Right.
Even though it hints at berry flavors that I'm familiar with.
Yep.
But it's a little more mellow than that.
That's an interesting way to think about it.
Or smoother or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tasty, and the color is fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's got this kind of magenta-y... It's lovely. Lovely.
Oh, it's very pretty.
Yeah, but so I didn't name it pricking whatever for Halloween, because I just thought that would be too hard to talk about.
Yeah,
so.
But I like the Macbeth tie-in.
Well, nice. Thank you for the
like
Macbeth
that.
tie-in. Yes, you're welcome. Everybody is welcome for my bringing up the three witches at the beginning of Macbeth. So because it's Halloween week, I thought we should talk about death. I know. I realize it's a jump, but it could have been prickly things. So just be glad I went with death.
Okay.
So,
death.
and the reason I wanted to talk about death is you and I have talked about it various times and such. And you recently had your grandfather pass.
Right.
And in the area we live in, there's a lot of Latino families and history here.
Right.
And so we've got Day of the Dead being celebrated along with the people in costumes going around and begging for candy, right? So we've got all of that happening.
All of that's happening.
But I thought death might be a really good thing to talk about. Partly because the Halloween tie-in, but partly because white Americans particularly are terrible at talking about death.
Yeah, we are.
Right? There was a great book written about this, and unfortunately it's not going to come to me, but it was about... I may have even called The American Way of Death. It was about how the rise of funeral homes and this kind of sanitized, the family's not washing the body and taking care of all of it, and it becoming this industry made death go way over there.
Oh, sure.
And us go way over here.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also the industrial medical complex that does everything possible to keep people from dying.
Yeah.
So we don't talk about it well.
No, we really don't.
And for Christians, because we have this idea about what happens after death, and because we've got Jesus and the big air quotes bodily resurrection, whatever that means, we don't have a good place to talk about it. So I thought we could kind of spend some time in the spirit of Halloween.
That's great.
Just talking about death and how, all that stuff. So do you have any thoughts you want to begin with now that I've set this up for you?
You mentioned my grandfather's passing recently, and my mother's grieving that, obviously. I mean, we as a family are grieving that. She in particular is grieving that.
And that's your mom's dad, right?
Right. That was my mom's dad, who passed away a week after his 100th birthday. So he had a very long, very full life, was celebrated at his memorial by the entire community. The whole thing really, I hope that I can go that way. You know, he died very peacefully. His kids, all three of them were there. Right. And it's almost like, you know, they gave him permission to go ahead and go. It was actually, as I'm hearing about it, it was lovely as these things go, but she's had a very hard time talking about it, a very hard time talking to her siblings about it. And I feel like, you know, she has a lot of very traditional, even fundamentalist ideas about death and what you do when your loved one dies, and the expectations that, you know, there were things at the funeral that didn't go exactly the way that she thought they should have gone, and it was very upsetting to her. Okay. Because she feels like that's how you honor your loved one. If things go off the rails, then you feel responsible for that you didn't send them off in a way that was, you know, honorable and whatever. But to me, while the memorial was not perfect, I thought that was some of the charm of it, and the lovely things that people had to say, and the outpouring of love for my grandfather. To me, that was just like the thing I walked away with, not the fact that the body arrived late, or not the fact that they left the casket open when they wanted it closed, and not that, you know, not the things, the minutia that were not minutia to my mother at all. Sure. Talking about the industry around burials and memorials and all that stuff, I mean, that really gets to the heart of what you mentioned and what I experienced and what my mother is experiencing still. We have this very perfect sanitized idea of how those kinds of things are supposed to go. And honestly, his passing, like I said, could not have been more peaceful or more perfect, in the sense that he was surrounded by loved ones, and he was, you know, he basically went in his sleep after, you know, a long period of just sort of his body saying goodbye. Right. And so I just, as a part of life, we don't bring death into those conversations easily, like you mentioned. And I wish we could do a better job of that.
So I'm hearing a number of different things in what you're saying. But the one that I want to actually focus on is the language that you used about his actual last breath moments. Yeah. You talked about the peaceful passing, right? And there's a phrase in the liturgical church that's a peaceful death, right? Like this, there's something about the idea of death being peaceful that is sort of the pinnacle idea of it. Yeah. You know, what you're supposed to do is live a long time and just sort of gradually fade into your physical body not being active anymore. Why? You know, and I think part of it is that we don't want people to suffer. And that's big, and that's important. Yes. There's also something about it from the people who are standing by watching it, that when somebody dies in that way, like all the possible guilt of we should have done something goes away.
Ah, sure. Right.
Right? Right. If I step into the street and I get hit by a truck and you're around, you're going to be like, how did I allow that? I mean, even for a split second, how did I allow that? Yeah. As if like you could have done anything about it. Right. Or if I have a terrible illness that gives me pain or whatever, it feels so incoherent, I think, with this notion that we have of what death should be like. Yeah. Right? The reality is death is the end of our physical actioning. Yeah. And I want to be careful about the way I phrase that, right? Because it isn't like our bodies disappear. Like that would be nifty, right? Right. So it isn't the end of our physical body. That's not what happens. In fact, one of the problems we have with death is what the heck to do with the physical body. Different traditions have different ways of dealing with that. And, you know, those are all legitimate or not, depending upon whatever the thing is. But it's that moment of death that we want to be like,
Yeah.
and I admit for myself, and I admit I have a little bit of trouble talking about this because death in itself has never scared me, ever. And I have that kind of instinctual prevention of death, right?
Sure.
like
self-preservation.
The self-preservation.
Sort of built in.
The built-in self-preservation piece. But dying, yeah, I really don't want to go through the pain. I don't want to go through I don't want to cause other people difficult. You know what I mean? I don't want any of that. That's the part.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Part of what happens for us is, for some people, the ceasing to exist is a real concern, which says that they care a lot about whatever it is that isn't physical, because again, your physical body doesn't cease to exist, but there's something about you, me, that ceases to exist.
Yes.
So we talk about that. And there's something, I think, for many people that's deeply troubling about that. But I don't think I cease to exist.
Right.
Right? Which, to me, if you're the kind of person who believes in any form of continuing existence, whether it's karma, reincarnation, or whether it's the resurrection of the spirit or the resurrection of the body, or even going into a peaceful nothingness.
Yeah.
That ceasing to exist shouldn't, and that's big scare quotes, right? Shouldn't be a thing that you're concerned about. But I think there's something about that that's really hard for us.
Yes.
And so that casts a pall, not to be playing on this too much, but it casts a pall over the whole conversation.
It really does.
So if we want to have the conversation about, well, what do you want at your funeral? Well, what for you is the end of life? Is it your brain not working, your loss of your sense of humor? What is it for you, right? That whole kind of existential, I will cease to exist piece makes it really hard for people to talk about.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does.
And that's setting aside, who should get the armoire.
Right.
Right? Which is a whole other set of problems.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think we get really stuck in this because we don't treat it as part of everything else. If the dog dies, or you have to put the dog down, you say, well, you sent the dog to the farm, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Or put the dog down.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right.
Right? We talk about people passing away. Well,
right.
What does that mean? I mean, we all know what it means. But we don't talk about death very comfortably at all.
No, we definitely don't.
One of the things I love about the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos or Dia de Muertos, is that there's a sense of humor around it.
I love that too. Yeah.
If you look at the grinning skulls and the flowers and the painted faces and dancing and drinking and all of those kinds of things, it is a true acknowledgement of the fact that we all die.
Yep.
Whether you believe that the souls of your loved ones return for that one day or not, it is that laughing at death.
Yeah.
Saying, I am defying you today.
Yeah.
I may not be defying you tomorrow.
Right.
That I really appreciate. And I appreciate that aspect of this season that we're in, because it turns death into a thing that is just part of life.
Exactly.
I wish we did more of that.
I wish we did that better.
If you think about the kinds of movies that come out around Halloween, and actually this year, it's sort of interesting, the number of horror films that are coming out, not just in this season, but for the next 6 months, has skyrocketed. And I'm sure it's because of people's anxiety about the world, right? So horror films are a way of
They're a big deal. I just saw a statistic that horror films, in terms of attendance, have gone up like 17% since COVID. I think it's, for some people, it's the way for them to work through their own anxieties.
Right. I've seen a real increase just in the last 6 months of what's coming forward, which tells me that people are feeling anxious about the world and about their own lives. And the way they get that out is by dangerous things on screen. But there's something about slasher, particularly movies, that I hate them, but there's a little bit of that laughing at death thing.
Sure.
in them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know who's going to get knocked off first.
Yeah.
Right? You can see it happening, and there's something about getting it out there where you can see it that I think is a way that people grapple with the idea that this is inevitable.
Right.
Is they make it outlandish, gross, horrifying, as opposed to funny, remembrance, and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to get better at talking about it.
Yeah, I think so too.
And when you get into the whole, kind of tech bro way of, I'm going to live forever if I take 400 supplements and take a cold plunge for 3 hours every day, that fear of death, I don't even know what to do with that as a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Other thoughts about any of this?
I love that you brought up Day of the Dead because I was unfamiliar with that before I moved to California. And I find it fascinating in all the best ways. Because again, my frames of reference around death have always been despairing and dark and, and not talking about my own passing, but, when a loved one dies or whatever. But the way that they honor those who have gone before by cooking their favorite meal or doing the thing that they loved to do in remembrance of them and keeping their memory alive. I just find that so life-giving, for lack of a better word. I mean, and I realize that that's for us more than it's for them, but I do think that, I don't know, I think their loved ones are celebrating too somehow with them, and I don't know how that works, but it just feels like the gulf between the living and the dead just gets much smaller, much easier to traverse, and the bright colors and the dancing and the singing and the music, but then there's also this air of longing for those who've gone before.
100%.
The way that they can combine those things in meaningful ways, I just think that's amazing, and I wish we as white people could embrace that better.
Right. And there are plenty of white cultures that have that. So the Irish have a kind of a similar set of traditions that connect them with the dead. If you think about like African American, I'm using that language very specifically, African American language of ancestors.
Ancestors, yeah.
Right? Which comes from the African part as much as from the American part of that set of traditions, right?
Yes.
But the notion that your ancestors could be calling you towards something. If you think about in some of the high liturgical churches where you pray through someone who has passed. You invoke your grandparent or you invoke the Virgin Mary or whomever that is, but it's somebody you expect who's literally closer to God to intercede for you, right?
Yeah.
If we could desanitize us in a way and everything new is better us, we could get closer to that. And I think death would not be so scary. One of the great things about Monty Python was the laughing at death.
Yeah.
Including, in actually more than one of their movies, where people were bringing out the dead, right?
Yep.
You've got the plague happening, you're just dumping the dead. But the fact is that's not wrong.
Right, it's not wrong.
If you think about war-torn places, they're dealing with lots and lots of dead people.
Yeah.
And part of it is the huge grief and despair and loss. And part of it's the simple, you got to deal with it.
Yeah, you do.
Where most of us don't ever have to deal with dead bodies. And so we don't have any idea not only what that takes, but also of the tenderness that we could be showing if we had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Weirdly, one of my favorite memories of my marriage is My then husband was pastoring a church, and someone had died in someone's house, and the person who owned the house couldn't handle it, so called him. Of course, he grabbed me, and because I always get dragged into stuff, and I'm basically pretty good at handling pretty much anything. But we went in and we washed and dressed and called the 911 and we're close to a dead body in the way that so many of us never actually are close to.
Yeah.
Having to do it together was a really tender and funny and poignant experience. When we drop the tender, funny, poignant experiences from our daily lives, things become scary.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were able to be at your grandfather's birthday and at his memorial.
Yeah, me too.
Because the tender, funny, poignant, crazy-making stuff, you got to be engaged with both.
That's right.
All of it.
That's right.
And that means that his death holds a whole different place in your experience than it would if he had died over there somewhere and you'd found out about it.
Right.
Death is part of what we do.
Yeah.
And for me, it is one of the reasons that the resurrection of Jesus, whatever that means, is so important.
That's
because the death was real.
Yep.
And the life was real.
Yep.
Which is true for all of us.
That's right. That's right. Listeners, we love hearing from you. CocktailTheology.com is where we are. If you like this episode, please like it wherever you are listening right now, because that helps other people find us. Also, follow or subscribe wherever you are right now, because that's important too. What do you think about death? And I know, death is a touchy subject, and I don't want to underestimate the number of people that are listening right now who have had really difficult situations with grief, losing loved ones. So we are not here to minimize any of that.
No.
But we would love to hear from you regardless of what your story is.
Indeed. And if you're listening to this in Halloween week, happy Halloween and a magical, blessed Day of the Dead as you remember those who have gone before you.
That's right. Till next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.
Funny how the view can change, how life just seems to rearrange itself, no matter what it was. I don't know how it goes, but look, moving on feels pretty good. Moving on feels pretty good.
If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. We welcome your comments, questions, and ideas for conversations and for cocktails. Please get in touch with us at our website, CocktailTheology.com. Cocktail Theology is a production of SFS. Our theme song is Moving On Feels Pretty Good, recorded by yours truly, Benton Stokes. You can find my music wherever you stream your favorite artists. Join us next Thursday for another new episode.